Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today I have another episode brought to you by Kaviso. Be sure to hop on over and check out their awesome selection of EDC knives and gear, as well as their camping outdoor equipment. They have a good selection of that as well. And what we have here today is a knife that I was very interested in when I saw it, but I also had one massive reservation in regards to one thing with this knife that you see right here. We'll talk more about that in a second, but what we have here is the Boker Kaizen. Now, before I go any further into this review, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length of 7.09 inches, a blade length at 3.11 inches, and a blade width at a very narrow 450 thousandths. Blade thickness on this guy is 80 thousandths, very thin stock, with a blade material of S35 VN steel. We have a straight back blade style with a flat grind, a handle length coming in at 4 inches, and a handle thickness at 400 thousandths, so a rather thin handle as well. I will say, though, it doesn't quite feel as thin as 400 thousandths since it is also so narrow, because the handle width is only 542 thousandths. So you have a narrow handle, a thin handle, but the combination of it feels a little different in hand. Handle material on this guy is G10 with a liner lock locking mechanism, a user of a right hand only tip-up carry, and a weight at a very, very nice and light 1.6 ounces. And you can pick this guy up at Kaviso for 79 bucks. 79 bucks for what I think is a very attractive design, an S35 VN. That's a pretty good deal. Now, there are D2 variants of this available at other retailers, and the D2 versions are 74 bucks. So, and I don't know how that happened. This is actually kind of on sale right now. I think original MSRP was 89, so it is on sale right now for 79 bucks. So, yeah, a really solid price for everything you're getting. Let's take a look at some size comparisons here and see how it stacks up with a few others. I don't have anything that slim, but I got a couple about that long. We got the Civivi Elementum, and then we also have another knife here that that Kaviso has a fantastic selection of, are the QSP Penguins. If you're in the market for a Penguin, be sure to check them out for that too. They have an excellent selection going on. I think just about everyone could find what they need there. But some pretty good size comparisons there in terms of length with those two knives. And like I said, I really don't have anything in terms of like width. I would honestly compare this handle to like a Sharpie. Obviously just not completely rounded, but that's probably the best you can get with that. But now let's talk about this blade, because I gotta be really honest here. This is one I haven't handled nearly as many Bokers as I have Civivi and Kaiser and QSP and Benchmade and Spyderco. But this is pretty easily one of my favorite Boker blade shapes ever. And it's also one of my favorite gentleman style blades ever. I really, really like what they have going on with this blade. It looks like it should be a big knife blade, like just brought down into a very small, compact, gentlemanly carry. I love the lines on it. It has some very nice jimping up there that is pretty darn grippy. It's not perfect, but it's really good. The swedge on this, I think, works fantastically well with just the slender swedge, how it blends in with the flat grind, and just the nice, long, slender blade shape. Really, really like the tip and belly, and just the overall lines on this is really, really good. What's even better than that, and I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised by what I'm about to say. The edge on this blade is coming in at 11 thousandths. 11 thousandths behind this blade. Now, granted, I know it's technically a high flat grind for the blade, but the actual grind itself, it obviously thickens up to that 80 thousandths pretty quick. But it still is very much a slicer. This is a very, very razor thin edge, and it goes through paper incredibly well. Now, I will say, Boker is not the best with edges out of the box in terms of the smoothness of the edge. Hogue's a prime example. When you get a Hogue out of the box, like, there is not one burr on that sucker. It is so smooth, and it is just an excellently honed edge. You don't really get that with Boker. There was a few little small burrs on this blade that I had to touch up on a strop and just kind of smooth out. Not the end of the world, especially when you're getting something like this for 79 bucks. I don't have a problem with that because I end up sharpening all my knives anyway, especially stropping. I strop almost every one of my knives. So I do any one I use. So it's not perfect, but it just kind of is what it is, and I had to say it. But the actual blade itself is fantastic. The only thing that comes into question with this blade is right here, and it's technically part of the blade stock, so we're obviously going to talk more about it when we get to the action, but this is the flipper tab. Now, very, very important to note here that the top of this flipper tab also acts as the liner locking area. So obviously there's no chamfering here. There's no smoothing out of edges. There's no nothing. This is flat, and you do feel it. You do feel it. But again, I have some good and bad things to say about that when we get to the action. But the blade itself is great. I really love this blade. I like the steel. I love the lines. I like this thin sliciness. And I just like the overall design with this knife. It's very, very nice and pretty unique. Without that flipper tab and moving into the handle, you have that enlarged pivot. And you have this milling that's on the G10 is actually pretty nice. I was a little disappointed with how the thumbnail looked. I thought the thumbnail made the milling look lesser quality than it is. It's actually pretty darn good milling. I mean, for as small as it is, it's pretty clean. I mean, you have real little things here and there, but when you're just holding it and looking at it from a distance, I think it looks fine. Again, especially we're talking a $79 knife. We're not talking a $279 knife. The one thing that I really don't like about this handle is this monstrosity down here of a lanyard hole. This is my thing with lanyard holes on gentlemen's knives. They shouldn't be on there because a gentleman's knife shouldn't have a lanyard. At least me personally, when I think of a gentleman's carry, I think of something that is discreet, that is slender, elegant, a certain appearance to it that I don't really like. I would never put a lanyard. I mean, I'm not a lanyard guy to begin with, but lanyards just don't belong on gentlemen's carries unless it's maybe like a slip joint that you just drop in your pocket and it's not hanging and dangling on the side of your pocket. That's a little different. But I just see no need for this whatsoever. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If I decide to keep this knife, I will be dremeling this off. I tell you, if you guys like to mod your knives, do any type of little fixes like that, a Dremel is worth every penny. A Dremel can easily cut this off, and you could smooth off to bottom, and it look pretty good. So if I keep it, I will definitely be doing that, because then what you have, if you got rid of this, a nice, true, deep carry clip, ultra deep carry, really. This is an excellent clip. It feels good in the hand. It looks really good. Of course, I wish it was stonewashed due to it hanging out of the pocket and being exposed, but it also does kind of match the satin blade, so there's at least a little similarity there. But it's pretty much fully recessed. Screws are fully recessed. The clip itself is recessed. There's just a little of it sitting out because it's obviously not a very thick scale. But no real complaints with the clip. I think it's great. It looks great. It works excellently well with the knife. And I don't know why I'm having these focusing issues, but it just looks really good. And the handle feels great with the texturing in it from the milling. Rule of thumb, I'm not a huge fan of like the fish scale milling, but I really, really do like the smaller the better. The larger fish scale, it starts to look a little cheesy to me. But this is a smaller, finer milling, so it just looks better. It's not quite as noticeable, and it looks like something else other than just a fish scale. It just looks nicer, and it makes for a very nice grip. This handle has an excellent grip. Even with the jimping up here that you have that kind of combines with the flipper tab, you have a little extra pinch area here. While the ergos are very, very just like okay. I mean, they're obviously not hand hugging. They're nothing. This is basically like holding a Sharpie or a pen in your hand in the position of a knife. So nothing super good about the ergos, But I will say, I like the grip you have on the handle, and I like the copious amounts of jimping you have all over the blade to maneuver, to kind of, just maneuver the blade and move it in any direction you need to do any certain types of cuts. There's a lot of grip on this handle for being as small and narrow as it is. So I do like that a whole lot. Liner lock access is very nice and very easy, and it's a pretty smooth little blade. I gotta say, it broke in really well out of the box, and very, very fun knife to do some flipping with. Now, getting into the action's good. I really don't have any complaints with the action, actually. The only real issue, and there's no getting around it, is this flipper. Now, I'm not going to bash it as much as I thought I was going to, because I was dreading the feel of how this flipper was going to be. I thought it was going to be a massive hot spot. I thought it would maybe like scratch my finger. But it's really not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. This is a knife that, for me personally, I have no issue flipping it. Like, I can flip it open and it don't bother me one bit. Now, if you're a fidgeter and you just flip and close and flip and close and you do it like constantly nonstop, you will start to feel this. And I guarantee you there's going to be a good amount of people that look at this and they're like, hell no, there ain't no way. With that point, it's not going to feel good. And I'm not saying it feels good. I'm not saying this is the best flipper ever. But I think for what they were trying to do and what they were trying to execute, I don't think they could have done it any better. That's kind of like where I'm stuck. And you also, too, you have two options here. You can use your actual index tip and flip it out very easily. Or if you have fingernails, and I have just enough fingernail, you can put your fingernail right behind it and flip it out. And so really, if you're using your fingernail, then there's no irritation, because obviously you're not on your skin, you're not pressing or poking anything, and you're good to go. And the blade really does fly out. It really is a fun blade to flip. But if you're using your fingertip, which is totally fine to do, that's actually how I prefer. I would probably not use my fingernail. I would probably just use my tip here and just flip it out like that. It works very well. I'm actually really surprised at how much I enjoy it, even though you do feel, I mean, there's no getting around it. You 100% feel this kind of pointy, I wouldn't call it sharp because it hasn't cut me or anything. I mean, you guys have seen me flipping it. There's a little like whatever there, but again, my hands aren't exactly the softest hands in the world. So it's definitely going to be a very, very personal opinion on just how much they do or don't like this flipper. But I gotta say, it works. It really does work, and I really do enjoy it. And it is, in my opinion, I think this is a very nice gentleman's carry. I don't know about the green scales for a true gentleman's carry. Maybe black would definitely be better. So maybe, if I keep it, I'm probably going to obviously shave that monstrosity off down there, dye the scales black, and we're good to go. And we have a very, very nice, one of the best gentleman folders I've come across in quite a while, especially if you're looking this kind of snazzy, classy office style knife. This would be great for that as well. Good for a lot of occasions, and a very surprising knife. I've been pleasantly surprised by Boker lately. I gotta say, I used to be really rough on them, and I've really come around to liking a good amount of the knives they've brought to the table recently. I don't like their choice of D2 on a lot of things, but again, this is S35VN for $79. Yeah, no issues there. This is a very nice little knife. It has its quirks, but it's also very unique. And if you're okay with this flipper, I think a lot of people would really enjoy this knife. I think it's a very underrated knife, and it's one I would definitely recommend trying, as long as you're okay with the fact that you know that the flipper is gonna be a little abrasive. You're gonna feel that flipper more than you have on a lot of other flipping knives, but it's really good. I like it. What can I say? I really do like it. The Boker Plus Kaizen. Guys, let me know what you think of this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.